welcome to another video. I hope you're having a really good day. So today I'm pretty excited. It's going to be my Japanese book recommendations plus my TBR. So I know some people say like a physical TBR. To me, like I only have physical TBRs. Like the only way I know I'm going to read a book is if it is on my shelf. So yeah, so it is my TBR plus the books that I recommend. I'm gonna do, whilst I'm not gonna call it exactly a top 5, it is going to be books by authors that I've read and therefore recommend. So let's just get right into the list. Number 5, okay, so the thing is too, a lot of the books that I recommend, I lend out to people because I want them to read it. So I don't have the books with me, but I'm gonna show you like placeholders. So Jun'ichirō Tanizaki, number 5 is Naomi. I loved this book. I kind of picked it up slightly on a whim, just wandering around the Barnes and Nobles, and I love how it is in my opinion, not only a cross-cultural read, but also a cross-generational read. What do I mean by that? So the story itself revolves around Naomi, a young girl who our protagonist sees at kind of a cafe. He thinks she's absolutely beautiful. He thinks she looks so Eurasian, like she looks half European, and he decides then and there that he like wants to be with this girl. I say girl. He adopts her like he's to be her father, and then essentially plans to like raise her to be the perfect bride and then marry her. Now, throughout this, we see Naomi constantly being her own person, defying him. He wants her to learn English. She's really bad at it. She never really learns it. He wants her to be like this really classy lady, and she wants to be a young girl having fun. And while there are parts of it that are absolutely, I would say, kind of hard to read because you're like, oh my god, this guy's like a predator. On the other hand, you see how Naomi is able to keep herself, maintain who she is, and this man, no matter how hard he tries to mold her, never succeeds. And in that way, I feel like reading it in with my modern sensibilities, I'm like, oh my god, Naomi is such a master manipulator, dark femininity queen. Like she is totally taking this guy for a ride. Of course, there's obviously like negative side effects to like having this weird guy raise you, but she's able to like leave poverty and pursue a life of the things that she seems to desire at his expense, and he kind of just sits there and takes it. The book itself, from what I understand, is supposed to be this critique of like Japanese obsession with the West and fetishizing the West, which I think, coming from like a lot of what we've seen in the US, like we in the West do that to Japan as well. We absolutely kind of fetishize and infantilize not just Japanese people, but like AAPI folks in general. So it's really kind of, I think, like I say, that cross-cultural read and reading a book. Sorry, there is like fluff on my face and I keep feeling it near my nose and it's like itchy. I promise I'm not like picking my nose. It's itchy. So I think that's one thing that I find really exciting about this book is that cross-cultural reading element. The how are you interpreting this book versus how would someone in Japan, when Tanizaki wrote it, how would they interpret it? So that's number 1 on my list. Number 2 on my list would be the Aosawa Murders by Riku Onda. This book, I think, if you want to take, okay, how would I describe this? For example, this book to me encapsulates that Japanese eeriness, that loneliness, that kind of disquieting energy that is really popular in like Japanese lit that gets translated. I don't want to say what's popular in Japan. I don't know what's popular in Japan. I know it's popular in like the US and the West, kind of reading Japanese lit, and this is very much, it is providing all of those things. It's ticking all of those boxes of like kind of weird, kind of creepy, but like still like not, it's like a gentle boat on a lake. Like that's the energy that I see from this book. Now, it's sort of a murder mystery, but it goes further than that. It almost is like a temperature check, of everyone and how they're doing after this mystery, which has gone unsolved. Now, the murder itself was this family was having a party, everyone is poisoned and dies except the blind daughter. So it's a very large mystery, and you see all these different characters and how they were affected by what happened. You see the detectives, you see people who wrote books about this, you see kind of like the family members of like the help, if you will, like the maid, like her daughter, how this affected her because her mother had been a suspect or something. So you see all of these different characters. It's not just a mystery novel where you're trying to solve the mystery. It's also seeing the kind of tentacles of a disaster in your in lives. Like, what is it, like the Mystery at Hanging Rock, that movie / book? It very much is that. Like, it's not just how like a murder and that, it's like this thing has ramifications for years down the line, and it affects people for years later. And I loved this book. I thought I couldn't put it down. It was so good. And I feel like if you know you like that style of Japanese lit, you would love this book. If you don't know, I think this is a very good kind of jump into that, because it also has that mystery element to it where it feels at home. Like that kind of environment really feels at home in a book like this, because it's a mystery, because there's murder involved. And it's sort of like, if you don't love mystery, it does have all those kind of like social contemporary lit fiction, you know, elements to it. If you don't really like this, it has enough of like the murder mystery stuff to kind of keep you going. So I think it's sort of like an all-around really good book, and I highly recommend that one. Moving up, I would say probably Confessions of a Mask by Yukio Mishima. Now, I've mentioned this book several times in videos, and the thing that I always say is it's like No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai, but with just bigger stakes. This is about a young man who realizes that he's sexually attracted to men, and he realizes this at quite a young age, and we see him grow up. We see his internal monologue, how he has to trick himself, and how he, you know, develops this like interesting relationship with himself, with sexuality. And it's kind of happening at the like the backdrop is like a young boy growing up and pubescing, but also, you know, Japan during and post the war. So you're getting these two things together, and I think it's, you know, Mishima's a character, to say the least, but I think this is like really beautifully written, and it's such a poetic look at, you know, someone's internal dialogue, and it's really good. After that, I would say Woman in the Dunes by Kōbō Abe is that. I love that book so much. It is about a man who is like a, what would you call it, like a amateur entomologist, and he's looking for beetles by a shoreline, and he gets kidnapped by this town, and the town is being overrun with these sand dunes, and he is forced to live with this woman and help every single day keep her house from being buried by the sand, which is obviously an impossible task. The sand keeps coming, and every day by day they are just, you know, shoveling it out. And it is such a wonderful, surreal cultural commentary, this like oppressive forces of society, and I think it does such a good job of making our main character seem not necessarily like an unreliable narrator, but like a man who we see him, when we first see him, we know very little about what his life was like previously, and the more we learn about him, the more the mystery almost deepens. And I think the ending is just absolutely so fabulous. It's such a good book, and I know he made a movie about it, and I really want to watch the movie because he directed it as well. I've also read The Boxman, and The Boxman was cool. I really like the concept of The Boxman. I just think I need to reread it. Like, I don't think I was in the place to absorb the weirdness of The Boxman, but The Woman in the Dunes is fabulous. Now to my last recommendation, and this is where it's 5 and or 6, because these are the 2 books I read by Shusako Endo, and both of them are just like blew me out of the water. The one that's probably slightly lower on this list, though they are both very high, is this The Sea and the Poison, or The Poison in the Sea, and again, I don't have it with me because of course I lent it out. And this book is so amazing. It is about the doctors who performed surgeries, and by surgeries I mean like experiments essentially, on American POWs. It is just so visceral, and the way that you get into these characters' heads, the way that they look at the world around them, the way that you understand where they sit almost on their like workplace cultural ladder. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you participating in this? We see characters who don't want to participate. We see people and all of their motivations. And I think that is something that Endo does so well, is he can read the moral, like ethical stance of these people. He can ask these questions. Who are these people? What are their motivations? Why are they doing this? And the book is so good. It's quite short too, but it's amazing. But the one that is like my top book, this was my top book of 2022, my top book ever. I love this book so much, and that is Silence by Shusako Endo. Oh my god, I freaking love that book so much. It is beautiful. Silence is about two Jesuits who go to find their teacher, who has moved to Japan to, like, is it evangelize when it's Catholics? I don't know. I guess evangelize the Japanese people, and rumors are that for some reason he is apostatized. These two guys, Jesuits, go to Japan to try and find him and prove that this is all fake, and what they come to is a horrible situation where the Japanese Catholics are being really oppressed, and it goes into how how the Japanese authorities are oppressing Christianity and oppressing the Catholics there, and there become all of these questions about, like, not just religion and the sort of silence of God in the face of human suffering, but also, you know, the questions of, like, Catholicism in Japan, Western influences in Japan. What does it mean to be a good person? Is being a good person someone who never turns their back on God? Or if you turn your back on God because others are suffering and you're willing to give up your own spot in heaven for those people to live, like, what is better? What is the right thing to do? And I think I look at being a good person differently because of this book, and I think that's, like, so powerful. But also, there was a movie made about this. It was Martin Scorsese. It wasn't made about this. It was made, like, the movie is the book, right? And it's very faithful. And I love that because it means that there's a lot of, like movie reviews, especially for, like, Catholic priests, which I find really fascinating because obviously that's not a perspective that I have for, like, so many reasons. And being able to see how they interpret the actions of the priest as opposed to someone such as myself, and how I would interpret it. And it's really cool. It's really cool to see, like, the different perspectives that we might have on this character, and whether or not they're a good person, whether or not they're a good Christian even. I highly recommend this book. I think it is it's a fascinating comment, not just on, like, religion as a tool of colonization, but on like, what makes someone a good person, what is deserving of forgiveness, how limitless is limitless forgiveness, how pride affects our ability to do the right thing, and chef's kiss. It's an amazing book. Everyone should read it. Okay, so I am back, which doesn't feel like I'm back for you. It feels like probably I never left, but my camera was overheating, so I took a little break, and now I'm going to do my Japanese TBR. So how am I gonna do this? I think I'm gonna start first with the books that from authors that I've already spoken about. The first one will be Jun'ichirō Tanizaki, and this is sort of like 2 for 1. I've read Diary of a Mad Old Man, but I haven't read The Key, so at some point I will have to read The Key. Next up we can do Riku Onda. I got this from Kinokuniya. Yes, I have to look at the little sticker to remember how to pronounce it every single time. I got Fish Swimming in Dappled Sunlight. I'm not gonna say what these books are about because I am a person who buys books knowing not what they're about, just being like, I like that author, that book looks cool. So for a lot of these, for ones of, like, authors I know, I just kind of pick up, snatch. And sometimes, like, if I don't know the author, I usually read the back of the book and think it's exciting and then forget what the book's about. So yes, this, I just think it's so beautiful. It's so visually pleasing. Then, okay, so these are 2 books that I got because after reading The Woman in the Dunes, I really wanted to find the box band, but I could not find it. For the life of me, I could not find it in stores. And I am not a big online shopper, so I was like, no, I will find her in the wild. The first place I was able to see her was in Amsterdam. So in that time, I picked up 2 other books by Kōbō Abe, The Face of Another and Secret Rendezvous. And so these are my 2 TBR Kōbō Abe books. And last on authors you've been introduced to is, of course, my fave, Shusako Endo, and I have Deep River. Again, I do love this. There's something about that, there's something like very pleasing about this Deep River. Okay, and on to my others. Such a fun, colorful distribution. This one I feel like was quite popular on BookTube, and that is There's No Such Thing as an Easy Job by Kikuko Tsumura. Then of course so Mieko Kawakami objectively probably should have been on some of my like top lists of like Japanese literature. So like I should have included her, right? Like Breasts and Eggs I've read Heaven, I like both of those, but I don't know. I just kind of feel like, while I really love her books, if I'm going to be giving like a recommendation list, I think I wouldn't go for those first to recommend to other people. Like if you like Japanese lit, you'll find her. Ooh, my tummy just made a noise. Another one. If you like Japanese lit, like you'll find her. Like she's a pretty widely recommended person. But this is All the Lovers in the Night. Very much like this. By like this, I mean I like how it looks. So next one is Scattered All Over the Earth by Yoko Tawada. And I've never read anything by Tawada. Don't know much about her. And yes, I picked this up at the McNally Jackson in Brooklyn. Very pretty, very muy esthétique. So this is the daughter of Osamu Dazai, and this is Woman Running in the Mountains by Yūko Tsushima. And this is about, I know this one is about a single woman, a single unwed mother in Japan. And I think like the politics of that, the cultural commentary of that are very much up my alley. This is actually fascinating. This is, I think, the only Murakami that I haven't read on my shelves at the moment, and that is The Elephant Vanishes. And this is just a short story collection, which I don't know. I definitely like Murakami, but I think the next thing I want to read, maybe after I finish this one, would be like a full size, because I've read several, but certainly not like everything, right? And last on my list is like a technically currently reading, but I don't really count it, and that is Musashi by Eiji Yoshikawa. And this is a big samurai novel. So there we go. Those are all of the books that I currently have by Japanese authors and my top recommended. Hopefully this stack becomes smaller this year, just because I do want to cycle through all the books that I own, and I'm sure that I will then have updated recommendation lists. But all the books that I recommended, I really do love them. They were fabulous reads. I enjoyed them. I think they taught me something about who I am as a reader, or even taught me something about life, and that is the best thing that a book can do, I think. And so I really hope that you pick them up and let me know if you've enjoyed them, if you've read them, or other recommendations you might have. Thank you, and I will see you next time.